Hello friends, this is part 13 of web application development series and this part is about HTML forms. So what are forms? Forms are used for taking input from users. For example, you might have seen like registration links where you can enter your username and password and login button. So these are kind of forms. Okay. Then HTML form is a collection of inputs. All inputs are taken once and sent to the server for processing. And this is the image, like this is the example of Facebook that we have seen. It is the email field where you have to enter your email and the password and login. So this complete set is a collection of form. Okay. So HTML forms is a combination of inputs, and for those inputs there is a tag that is called input tag. So this is the input tag. Input tag is one of the most common tags to take user inputs. Depending upon the type of attribute of input tag, corresponding input element is rendered on the screen. What does that mean? For example, if you want to draw the text box on the screen, this is the text box view, and for that you have to type input. Its type should be text. Similarly for password, the type will be password, so it will render your password box. If you want a date input, then your type should be date. If you want checkbox, then your type has to be checkbox, or for radio. And if you want a color picker, then color picker, color type has to be color, and then for submit button the type has to be submit. So let us see that with an example now. So this is my empty form. So as we said, that input element, if the type is the text, the slide said if the type is text, that this text, this image is drawn, right? This input image for taking image, that is text box image. So let us do that. Input type is equal to text. See, there are so many types that you can define. Text. Okay, just close it. So if you save it and see on the web page, you will be seeing that there is a input box available now, right? Since its type is text, so it is also called text box, where you can type your data. For example, in this slide, if we saw this, where user can enter the email or phone, this is also a part of text box where user can input his email or phone number. Okay. Then input type is equal to, if I say type is equal to password, it will render me a text box with password box with password. Okay, save the changes and see the changes if it is there or not. See, this is the password box, this is the text box. Then similarly for other types like color, if I want color, simply type input type is equal to color. This is a color picker. Okay, save the changes. See, now you can pick any color. Okay, and likewise there are just like I said, for date. Okay, so if you do that, you'll be seeing a date picker. Save the changes, open the web browser. See, this is the web, and you can select the date. This is a date picker. Other examples were like checkbox and radio button. Okay, these are also important, checkbox and radio button. So for the checkbox, the type is checkbox. Input type is equal to checkbox, but you want a string with that. So input type is equal to checkbox input. Sorry, close it. And name it as, for example, male, and for another would take one more as female. Okay, save the changes, make a line break here so that it is easier for us to see. Line break, as I mentioned in the previous video, BR is the type for the line break. Save it and see. Now this is a male and this is female. Okay, and similarly for radio button, the type has to be radio. See in the slide, type has to be radio. So I can copy it again, take one more line break, I'll copy both of them once more, and type has to be radio. Okay, save the changes and see the changes. Okay, what is the difference between checkbox and radio buttons? Checkbox, you can, out of many you can select many, right? With radio buttons you can select any one of them, because since these are not grouped in the radio group, so as at the moment you are able to select both of them, but in practice when you are you have to group them in a radio group so that any you can choose any one of them. So this is the difference between checkbox and radio button. Apart from that, for submitting, there is a type input, type is equal to submit, and it creates a default, it creates a button with default text as submit. Okay, see, I'll add one more line break. Okay, I'll add one more line break and see the changes. Okay, it, it is the submit button. So you can create button using button element also. It is button. Okay, like say submit, save the changes and see the difference. Okay, so we are getting, I mean these are both are the same, there's no not much difference. Okay. There are many more types that I mean there are many more type of input tag that you can see on MDN reference. Just go to MDN reference, open it, and you'll see there are a lot of types of input that you can specify. Accordingly, a control will be drawn. This is the complete list. You can have type as email so that it should validate for email address, and you type if your type is file, then control that lets user select a file. Okay, user accepts the attribute to define the type, that user can, that file control can select apart from that image. Okay, so there are many types that are there. Most of them I have covered, and you can, as as per usage, you can refer it and check it if there's something. Search is also used many times. Okay, search, so type input type is search is also used many times for searching the text within the web page. Now a little about form tag. Okay, till now we have discussed input tag. Now it's time for discussing form tag. Form is a combination of different input elements. The inputs that we've just discussed right now, it is the combination of those input tags, right? Form does not have any visual representation on the screen, but it groups the inputs in one entity. Okay, if that statement is not clear, hold on, we will discuss it with an example. Input tags don't serve much purpose if they are not enclosed in form tag. That means the input element that we have just discussed, these don't hold that much importance if they are not the part of form tag. Form tag has two main attributes, one is action and another one is method. We'll discuss one by one. First point is form is a combination of different inputs. So what does that mean? As of now, if we see, we have taken these many elements, right? These are not part of any um, let us say these are not part of any form, so they are not much useful. Okay, so why they are not useful, I'll let you know. I will just have, for the sake of simplicity, I will remove all of them, and I will have only two type, text and password. Okay, save the changes and see the web page. How does it look? Okay, there is one nice attribute, placeholder, using which you can see like what field is used for what. For example, if I say placeholder is equal to enter username, user ID, let us say. For this placeholder, enter password. Okay, save the changes and see the web page. Now this is the placeholder text that is coming, right? Okay, okay, what happens, basically what happens when you type submit button? In actual practice, if there is a Facebook website, when you enter the username or password and press the submit button, what happens basically, it takes your request to the server identifies and validates if the user is correct, then it shows you your own page, right? Similarly, if I press the submit button, the request should go to the server and it should check that okay, this user ID or password is correct. As of now, we are not using any backend things. Once we will start studying, then we'll obviously will start implementing the backend. But for the sake of understanding the front end, I'm telling you that. Okay. So see, this is the username and this is the password. I will press submit button. See, there's nothing happening, right? There's nothing. The cursor, the cursor is not moving for the processing and all. So it's not taking the request to the server. Okay. So why it is not taking the request to the server? Because these input elements are not part of the form tag. So I'll enclose it in the form tag so that it becomes a part of the form, right? It becomes a part of the form, and when you submit it, request is sent to the server, right? So I'll save the changes. Now just look closely. When I'll press submit button, look here. It will cursor will move such like that. It's the request is going at the server for processing. I'm pressing the submit button. See, for the very short moment, okay, it's refreshing itself. It's sending the request to the server. Okay, see once again. Okay, so I have not specified any server, right? So where the request is going, correct? Where the request is going, by default, the request as see in the slide says form tag has two main attributes. One is action. It is the URL that process the form submission. Okay, so by default, this action is the same website or the same page. So it's taking to itself. It's not going anywhere. It's just taking the request to itself. So if I say action is equal to www.http google.co.in, okay, save the changes. Okay, and now if you press the save submit button, it will take the request to google.com. Okay, see, fine. We have specified www.google.com, but we are not doing any processing on google.com. Obviously we can't do it. We have to mention our own server address in the action, right? So action is like where, at which server this request is going to be processed. Okay, as the slide said, action is the URL that processes the form submission, and another one is method, that is get and post. So by default the method is get, but you can specify it explicitly get or post. Okay, so obvious question is, what is the difference between get and post, right? So let us move on that. So what is get and post method? Get method is used when you want to retrieve something back from a request. For example, you enter employee ID of an employee and web server must return other employee details like name, age, gender, salary, etc. So when you want to return something, you want the web server to return something based on the details you have provided, you should use get method. And the post method is generally used when you don't want to retrieve anything back but save some information to database. I mean, like user registration forms, right? Where you just user your details and your details are and saved to the database. Correct? Now query strings. What are query strings? When you want to send the request along with parameters, that is then query string is used. Okay. If that does not make any sense, don't worry. I'll discuss it in detail. Second thing is the HTTP query string is specified the values following by question mark. So in the request, if you see a question mark, then the string after that question mark is a part of query string. Okay. And parameters, you can send multiple parameters with the request. Then those parameters are separated by ampersand sign. Not clear? Don't worry. Let us see with an example. Simply type news.google.co.in. Okay. You see, this request is sent with after there is something after there is a question mark and there is an ampersand sign in between, right? So just copy this URL and paste it somewhere at the notepad. Make it a little bigger. It's okay. It's not being bigger. Why this? So this is the request URL. We can see there is a question mark, right? So what the slide said? The slide said the HTTP query string is specified by the values following the question mark. So after the question mark, whatever is there, this is a part of query string. So I'll remove it to the next line. I'll take it to the next line. So this is our query string, right? And there are three and if you see, and the next statement in the slide says parameters are separated by and sign. So it is passing three parameters. First parameter is this. See, this is the first parameter. Then this is the second parameter, right? This is the first parameter. This is second parameter, and this is third parameter. Okay. So first parameter name is h1, second parameter name is g1, and third parameter name is CEID. See, it is saying in. What does that mean? Somewhere it passes the when we send the request google.co.in, Google server identify my location, and what this do is in the query string they pass my location like in in for Indian, right? So if I type simply google.co.in, it news.google.com. If I type simply news.google.com, let's take google.com. Web servers of Google are identifying my location and they see okay, it's Indian location, so they pass some additional parameters as a query string. Okay, it's taking some time. Maybe my internet is there. Sorry, my internet went off. So when I type news.google.com, see the web servers of Google identify my location and they are adding these additional parameters in the request. So these are the query string, right? So how can we pass the query string with our request? The answer is we should use name attribute of element to send the parameter as query string. Let us see that with an example. This was my example I was working with. I'll remove this action and I'll add some nice heading. This is not required, just for visual representation. And login form. Let us say login form. And I said in the slide use the name attribute, right? Use the name attribute of the element. So I'll use the name attribute. Name is equal to, let us say, user ID, and name is equal to pwd for the password. Okay, save the changes and now launch it with live server. So this is our login form. Okay, so this is my request as of now. I've not sent anything. So login form I'll enter and password is 1234. When I press the submit button, see carefully, this is added to the query. So this is the query string, and if you can see, these are the parameters. User user is equal to Manoj and password is equal to pwd is equal to 1234. So when this request will go to my server, web server will parse this URL and understand okay, these parameters are passed, and it will use those parameters accordingly as per the logic specified by you. Okay, we'll do that also, don't worry. So that's it for this session. In the next session, we'll learn about form validations. Thank you. Have a great day.